Hello, my name is Solomon Jeremiah. Welcome to my channel. Today, I would be making a guide or a tutorial on how you can migrate your WordPress from wherever you have it hosted to Microsoft Azure. The reason for making this video is because I actually made a post on my WhatsApp, and what I asked was, do you want me to make a video on how to migrate your WordPress to Azure, or make a video on Entra ID? And most of the vote went to migrating WordPress from wherever you have it to Azure. So what I'll be doing now, I'll be showing you how we can do that. So just before I start, this is Azure portal. You just need to type portal.azure.com and you would have something like this. The next thing I would do is I am going to search for WordPress. So I'm trying to create a WordPress on Azure before migrating the WordPress I have on another hosting plan to Azure. So this is what I would type: WordPress, and I should have this WordPress on app service. So I'll select this. Once I select this, I should be having this page. So I'm not going to be using this. I will be using UK South. Did I see that? Yeah, so this is UK South. So the next thing I would do is to select my resource group. So this is the resource group I created. You can create this resource group when you're probably on this page. You can just click on create new, and then you have the resource group. What we'll look at next is the default name for this WordPress we are creating. So I will call this can.dev. When I call this can.dev, the next thing I'll be looking at is the plan. We have different plans that you can choose from. I would not be going into the plan, but what I would do when we are done creating this WordPress, I will show you how you can see the plan and how you can change it after creating the WordPress. Once we are done with selecting the plan, the next thing we can do, we can select the admin. So this is the name of the admin. I can choose to just say can.dev admin as the username. Then I would select a password. Now that I'm done selecting my password, this password is what I would use to log into the WP admin, that's the WordPress admin. I'll click on next. Now this place, what you should note is you need to actually click on learn more to know about each of these services that you're going to be using. But if you don't really understand it, I would advise you don't just take it. You can untick it. So, but when you're probably creating this for an organization, you need to consider most of these features when you're creating it, and they can actually help you if you understand their use case. For the storage, you can also untick it if you don't understand, but I would still advise and recommend you learn more so you can actually know how to bring it in. For the virtual network, for me, if I'm doing this for an organization, I don't just use the default network. I first of all study the previous virtual network on their portal, and once I do that, I can come in with creating my own network. And when I'm creating my own network, I also put in mind some other considerations in terms of, am I going to be setting up an application gateway? So I'm not going to be covering application gateway in this video, but the idea is that if you understand the virtual network, how you want your application gateway to work and all of those stuffs, you might need to just create yours. So, but for the sake of this video, I would not be covering all of that. I'll just go next and go with the default. So I will go next to deployment. I am not going to do anything here. I will go next, and then I would hit the review plus create. Then I can now create. So I will go to create. So this will take a few minutes to complete. So while this is running in the background, I just want to explain something else. So this is the website I have, and this website is Candor.dev. I would be migrating this WordPress website to WordPress on Azure. Now, I don't actually need the cPanel. When we are looking at migrating WordPress, there are different ways you can actually do that. For this video, I'll be using a tool to do that. This tool is a paid tool, but the free version of the tool can actually do the work for me. And I think this is one of the simplest way you can actually achieve this. What I need is just the admin account for the WP admin. I don't need access to the cPanel for me to carry out this migration. When the WordPress is done installing on Azure, I will take you to some configuration and then show you some other stuff. So what I would do now is, let me show you the plugin I'll be using. So if I come to plugins now on this website, this is the name of the plugin. You would search for WP Vivid Backup Plugin. Once you install it and activate it, you have something like this. And when you have something like this, you have the option to migrate. And once you want to migrate, it is going to ask you for a key. And this key, you're going to provide this key from the location you're migrating this website to. So once the WordPress is done installing, I will go to the WordPress that I just installed on Azure and install this plugin. And once I'm done installing this plugin on that WordPress, the next thing I would do is to come to key and generate key from the WordPress on Azure. So for this, I don't have anything to do here right now. So I will go back here, and what I will be doing now is to wait for this to be done. This is going to take a couple of minutes. I will have to pause the recording, and once this is done, I will continue from this place. Welcome back. The deployment is completed. What we'll be looking at now is going to the resource. We have the resource here. This is the default domain for the WordPress. But before I open the domain, so we see the WordPress site, I just want us to look at a few things. Earlier in this video, I promised that I'll be showing you the plan. So if you look here, you will see scale up. Scale up is basically you thinking of changing the plan that you selected while you were creating the WordPress. So once I click here, you can see we have hardware and we have different plans. Now we have the option to go in and select more plans, and you're going to see the SLA, the instance, the remote storage, the memory, this vCPU, and we also have ACU/vCPU. You're going to see all those information. You will see all of that here, and you can actually make your choice on which of them you really want to take. You can always choose them, and we can just click on features here. And when we click on features, you can see. So now for these features, one thing you should also note, the type of plan you're going with will decide your scale out. So scale out just means you can actually select multiple instance, and this multiple instance, you can actually use the automatic for it, where if you probably have a high traffic on your WordPress, the instance will kind of increase to balance the traffic. So your plan can actually decide that. So if you look at this plan, you will see some of them have the elastic, and you will see some are rows. I will just take you there soon. And like I said, you can read more. So if you move this slider here, you will see that you can also see the cost for each of these plan. So if I come back to the hardware here, I will just try to move this, and you will see that we have cost per hour. We also have the cost per month. So you have the option to change this, and you might need to shut down the WordPress. So if I say shut down, you might need to just call me and stop it. So you make those changes, then you restart it or you start it. So the next thing I'll show you is the scale out I was talking about. So the type of plan you're going with will determine your scale out method. So there are some plans that would not support the automatic, and some would just support only the roles based. So you have to, put all of those in planning. The next thing we would be looking at is our configuration. So I'm just showing you all of this so you just understand a bit, get some little info about the WordPress in Azure. So if you look at this, we have our database name, the password, and a lot of other stuff. So if you probably want to check your database, you want to connect to your database, you can as well do that. The password is here, the username and everything, the database name is here. If you want to also check your WP admin, I created one. If I just move here, there should be, let me be careful on what I'm clicking on. So this is where I'm supposed to click. Yes, so this is what I'm clicking on. So you can see the name I used. So my WP admin, the username is here. And if I want to see the password, is also here. Likewise, I can go there and reset the password if I want to. So you can get a lot of all other informations on your configuration. We also have the deployment center. So the deployment center here, we have logs and we have the FTPS credentials. So I know this migration I'm doing is from the admin dashboard, but there are a lot of other methods that you can use to do this migration. So if you're comfortable using the cPanel and FTP, you know how to use FTP clients on your computer, you can as well do the migration through that process. That means you would also need to have access to your control panel. I would want to just open the WordPress site. Let's see what it looks like. So this is the WordPress site. Good. So I have my WordPress. Now my target is to install the plugin that I'll be using to migrate this my beautiful website to this Azure WordPress. So for me to access my admin, I just need to use the WP admin. Now for the WP admin, I would type in my admin. I hope this is the admin I use. Yeah. Then I will type in the password. I was typing the wrong password. Good. So I'm in. The first thing I will do, I'll show you how to install the plugin. So I just need to click add, and once I click add, I will search for the plugin. Search for the plugin migration. I did not want to just type the name because I know most time when I type the WP Vivid, it doesn't show up. So this is it. So this is the other plugin I was talking of, the all-in-one migration. The all-in-one migration should support any content. That's if your WordPress is less than 250 MB. you should be able to use the all-in-one. But this is something I use most of the time. So back then, I was always using all-in-one until I fell in love with this WP Vivid. So let's use that for this video. Now I have this installed. The next thing I'll be doing is to generate the key. You have different options to select in terms of when the key is going to expire. So I always stay at that middle 8 hours, just in case something is going to delay. I don't need to come back here and start generating the key. So you might have a delay for 8 hours too, just in case, things happens. So I'm going to copy this key now. Now, once I copy this key, I'll go to this, and this is the plugin as well. So this is the auto migrate. I will paste this on the auto migrate, and then I will save this. So once I save this key, now I already have my count now showing. I have the option to choose what I want to migrate. I will be choosing the database plus files because I need the database. And once I do that, I will hit the clone, then transfer. So one thing you should note is once this WordPress is moved over to that's to Azure, it will also be moving the admin of this particular WordPress, because I am also selecting the database and everything. I'm not going to configure it myself. I'm moving everything. So what next should I do? What I'll be doing next is hitting clone, then transfer. Once this is done, you just need to wait, just as I am going to do now, and watch this move. Depending on the size of your WordPress, you might have to wait a longer period of time, but this WordPress should not be that, the size should not be that big. So this should happen in no time. And I guess it's just probably going to get stuck at 80 something. I think 85, 83 is where I always wait most of the time. So instead of waiting, I would just pause the recording and I'll be back. I am back. Looking at the dashboard now for the admin, we can see that this has been finished. The next thing I would do now is to refresh this page. I can just come here and see if it is showing. So it is not showing. I will refresh this. Now you can see the backup is showing and the time for the backup, the date. What I would do now is to click on restore here. Once I hit the restore button, I need to just hit that again. Yeah, I have this pop-up. I just need to accept. So let's see what's next. This is going to take just a few minutes. I'll wait for this to be complete, then I'll come back. Now I'm back here. After the migration completed, this was the page I got to. It logged me out. Now the reason for this is because I am no longer connected to my WordPress on Azure. The admin user have been updated to the admin user that I have on this particular WordPress. So what I will do now is for me to get the admin account here and sign in with this admin account, which is Tech. So let me try to use Tech. Password. I'll try another password. I have to check for the password. I'll be back. I needed to check for the password. I actually typed it correctly, but for some reason, I guess I was too fast. Okay. I don't need to update this. I'll just say remind me later. Now, this is my WordPress on Azure, and I successfully migrated the content from this website to this WordPress to this other WordPress. So I will just visit site and see. I will just refresh this. Boom. So now I have my site, my WordPress, migrated to Azure WordPress. I just need to do a few things. And what I would need to do is to point my domain to this WordPress. So that will be the next thing I'll be doing now, and I'll show you how to do that from the Azure WordPress. And this is where we would come to first. We're going to start from here, and I would explain how we'll be doing that. So for us to point our custom domain to Azure WordPress, we just need to come to the WordPress. And I think what I should do, let me go back. I just need to come to the resource group. If you look at the resource group, you can see the resources that were created. This is the WordPress that we are dealing with. I would click on this so you see what we are dealing with. Now, the next thing I would be doing is going to custom domains, and once I go to custom domains, I would be creating an A record in my domain registrar. So I would log into my domain registrar, which I've already done, and once I log in there, I will be creating an A record with this IP for my WordPress on Azure. This is the portal for my domain registrar, and we have zone editor where I can update my A record and add A record. I'll copy this domain now. I'll come to Azure portal. I will click on add custom domain. I'll go to all domains, all other domain services. I would leave this on app service manage certificates, right? Because I need my SSL, right? So I don't need to probably add this later. And I would leave it in SNI SSL, not IP based. I will paste the custom domain here, and the record will be provided. Now I just need to go create this record in my zone editor. I'll copy the IP. I'll go to my zone editor, add a record. I already have one here, so I should delete the one I have. I don't need this. So let me just do this. I'll cancel this. I'll delete this. I will add a record, which is the IP. And yes, most domain registrar, they don't accept characters like art, and I am using one of them. I'll just put this here. So I can't actually put the art there. I would leave this here. I would then save. So once I save this, the next thing I need to do is to create the text record, or copy the text record. This is the name, the ASUID. That's the name. I'll come here. I'll add another record. It should add my domain now once I save it. So now I'm done with pointing my Azure WordPress to my custom domain. This is going to take a while to complete. I would also add the CNAME. When I mean the CNAME, once this is completed, I would be able to access my website when I type can.dev.com. But when I type www.can.dev.com, there's going to be a problem. So for me to resolve this problem, I will have to add this to my custom domain. I'll be doing that when the record for the domain updates, and I will continue from there. I gave the domain some time to propagate, and if you look at my CMD now, you can see the IP is now showing when I ping this domain. So I would minimize this, and if you look at this IP, is just exactly what we have here. So what I would do now is I would go to add custom domain. I would do the same thing again. This went off previously because I mistakenly closed the browser, and what you would notice now is I can't access this website anymore from the can.dev. So you can see what it's telling me, but for now I'm still accessing it from the default Azure WordPress. I would just validate this now, and let's see. So everything is all green, so you just need to give it some time and you would get to see this. The next thing I'll do, I'll click on add. So this is all good, and the binding, I would add binding so I can have this domain secured. So what am I going to do next? Let me just wait for this to load, and then the option I'll pick is create. I would use create. I'll just validate this, and that went through, so it should be all good now. I'll give it some time and everything here should be all green. The next thing I want to add is the www. So yeah, so we're good. The next thing I would do is copying this and then creating the CNAME. I'll come to the CNAME. This is what it should look like. So I notice if it goes live and I leave it at that's what it was before, it will still work. It will still point back, but I just want to change it, and I'll save this. What I will be changing next is this, which I think is also very, very important. So this is the ASU ID. I would just create a new text record. And save. Now this is going to take a while. This is going to take a while. I'll just give it a few minutes so it can propagate. Then I would come back to validate it again. While we are waiting for this to propagate, you would notice this is now secured. Previously, I tried to reach the website with this domain. I could not get to the website. So what I would do, I would try to type the URL. Boom. Now this WordPress is running on WordPress on Azure. That's where this WordPress is now. I've moved it to Azure. But right now, I've not added this. So let's see what is going to happen when I try to access the site this way. So what you should notice is I'm using www.can.dev.com. You see I cannot access the website. So what we'll be doing next, we would be waiting for that. I already created the DNS, the CNAME in the DNS record. I will wait for that, and once that is completed, we should be able to access the web, that's the WordPress, through this URL. But for now, I would wait so I can validate this and then add it. I will give this some time. I would be trying this again to see if there's any update. Something I also need to mention is for the record type, you have the option of actually changing it to a record, and then you just have to create these records. So I didn't want to go through this process, so that's why I went through the CNAME. So you have that option. I will try to just check validate it now. So the text record is good. I would add this, and probably when it gets updated, we should see everything working fine. So I would just click on add, and this is going to add now. What would happen is the SSL binding. So this is already successful for this. I just need to, this might not go because, oh, it went, nice. So what I would do now, I will give it some time to just update, and I will try to use the www this time around. So we are still going to wait. I'll give it some time and then I would get back. Okay, I will be checking the SSL for the www.can.dev.com to see if this is going to work now. I would hit validate. I actually gave it some time, so I don't have to be checking, coming back and all of that. So this is me adding it now. I would wait for it to update. So once this is done, yeah, we are all good to go, finally. So now I would be checking www.can.dev.com. Oh, my mistake. Do I always just make this mistake? Yeah. Boom. What is happening now? I just migrated my WordPress from my previous hosting plan to Azure App Service. Everything is now good. We have the WordPress for my previous host plan now being migrated to Azure App Service. So with the few steps, you can as well do this. So what did we do? We started from creating the WordPress on Azure App Service. After creating the WordPress, we installed the plugin. After installing the plugin, the next thing we actually did was getting the key, and after getting the key, we pasted the key and then did the clone and transfer from the previous host plan. After that was completed, we went into our Azure portal, and what we did there, we added our custom domain. So after adding our custom domain, remember we also added the www, so that both URL we always go to our WordPress. So once you've completed this, what you should be doing next is going into your previous host plan and just deprovisioning the website. Everything is now running on Azure, and if you probably want to set up a backup, you can as well set up the backup. You can choose to scale out the way you want. You can configure it. You can choose to change your plans the way you want it. There's a lot you can do here. You can also come to the configuration and then make some changes. So thank you so much for going through this long but not so long recording, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.